All right, schmoozing with Smoovers, episode number 3. If you haven't watched episode number 2, that already happened. We did it live on stream on the Smoovers YouTube channel. We covered how to improve Back 4 Blood. That was it. We improved everything with the game. The game developers should watch that and really take notes. It was a great thing. But today, we're doing something a little bit different, going away from Back 4 Blood. I know all you guys loyal viewers, so sad. But we like video games in general, and we do other things. So today, we're talking about speedrunning, because technically, that's how the three of us sort of met each other, kind of, sort of, not fully true between me and David, but like kind of true overall, that speedrunning is what brought us together. And I like to think of speedrunning as both, an online community of people, because that is very true. And it is also a hobby, definitely of mine, definitely of these two gentlemen, even if they don't say it. I think David would. I don't know about Cam. Cam's kind of troll. Don't worry about that guy.
Okay.
But speedrunning is something that's dear to our hearts, and it is something that we've put on the channel quite a bit, kind of put on the back burner for a lot of Back 4 Blood stuff recently, but it's still something that we all consider and do quite often. With that in mind, I kind of wanted to start off this podcast episode with an introduction of how each of the three of us got into speedrunning, because I feel like we all kind of got into it differently and at different times, kind of, sort of. So, Cam, since you're up on top on my screen there, start us off with your little spiel on how you got into speedrunning.
Alrighty. I used to watch Small Ant. I still do, actually. And he does a lot of challenge videos and speedrunning type videos. And I thought that looked pretty cool, playing games not in the correct way. I really enjoyed the breaking the game aspect of speedrunning. And so one day I downloaded Moving Out. It wasn't to speedrun. It was actually to play it with Caitlin, but that never happened. But after playing the game, I realized there was an in-game timer, and the game seemed like it would be pretty easy to submit runs for. So I decided to try speedrunning, Moving Out, and just love at first sight.
Love at first sight.
No, but I really enjoyed speedrunning, and basically that's the only game I have ever done any speedrunning for. I've ever
run Back 4 Blood
technically
too.
submitted.
I've
to be clear,
never submitted for Back 4 Blood. So the only game I've submitted runs for is Moving Out.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Interesting.
David, go on. Let's hear your little introduction to how you got into speedrunning.
Origin story.
Yeah.
So originally I started with the whole Minecraft speedrunning craze like 2 years ago at this point.
Yeah.
And so I was speedrunning Minecraft. I started with Set Seed because I really liked the shortness of the run. Went into RSG later. And then that was really all I speedran until I was watching Ryan stream Moving Out. And then I was like, dang, bro.
You're doing everything wrong.
My lines are better than yours. And I don't even own the game.
Your ass.
And then I bought the game on the spot and I beat him.
Yep.
Eventually.
Yes. This is true.
In every level.
Yeah, literally. Yeah, okay.
So,
yeah, so for me, kind of similar-ish to both these guys, a little different. So for me, I pretty much watched like every big YouTube speedrunning channel, but for me, something about 5 or 6 years ago, I really got into watching like speedruns on Twitch. So in particular, like Super Mario 3D World, like I could have told you like the exact times for like the top like 10 on the leaderboards, and I watched like all their streams like 24/7. And I basically followed like every game on Twitch for that matter, and like all the really big speedrunners on Twitch I followed. But I never submitted a run because it really scared me. So I just remember like I would constantly like try to perfect a level in like an old Mario game to get as fast as possible. But A, I didn't know how to record it because I didn't have a capture card, and B, I was like really scared to submit for some reason. So then flash forward like, I don't know, like 4 years or whatever, yeah. And about 2 years ago too, a year and a half ago or whatever, when I was playing Moving Out with my girlfriend at the time, we decided to just submit an any % run of the game because I was very adamant that we could beat the people that were in first place for the game. Because until this day, 2-player for that game is not optimized in the slightest. because no online multiplayer, sad. But we ended up submitting for moving out, and then ever since then I've kind of had a craze of actually just finally submitting games and playing things, a lot of retro stuff, a lot of new stuff, and I'm just a really big fan of speedrunning. I think it's a lot of fun. In terms of also how we got into speedrunning, like I said, that is kind of how the three of us met, or at least sort of made this channel. Cam talked about how he got in and submitted runs for moving out. Funnily enough, for me, I made it a goal of mine after playing co-op. I wanted to get every world record in the 30 individual levels as an individual player because I never played solo. So I submitted one level, got the world record, and I came back the next day to seeing some random ass bird stole my world record. And at that point, I kind of learned about my competitive nature when it came to speedrunning and went back and forth with Cam to beat him. And he eventually bested me because he's just way better at the game than me. And then eventually, me and Cam actually started talking and became friends. And like David said, he was watching my stream. He was telling me how to actually optimize my lines because David is just like naturally really good at that. He just sees how to like squeeze every ounce of time in a game. Not that he can necessarily do it himself, but he's very good at like understanding where like the best time optimizations are. For moving out, he ended up actually being really good at being able to do it too. So like he said, he bought the game, ended up beating me at it. That's kind of a reoccurring theme actually when it comes to the games I've speedran. David will often be like, hey, that game looks fun. I can do it better. And then he does it. So I mean, it's not actually unheard of for him to do it for other games. I mean, notably Rescue the Embassy mission, as you can see on screen. He's the world record holder for that game. Yeah, he saw the game, enjoyed it from what he saw of mine, remembered that he like really liked the game or something. And then he optimized it to all heck and like actually came up with new strats because that's kind of David's thing. So we all have really different connections with speedrunning, but as a whole, it is sort of how we met each other through moving out, which really was a small speedrunning community. I mean, it's basically non-existent at this point, but it was like at its peak, like 10 total runners or something. There was barely anyone for the game, you know?
Yeah.
So pretty interesting that we just by luck, I guess, ran into each other and we're all kind of cool people. I know David from other things, but overall it's kind of what kept us together was this idea of speedrunning games. So for me, I kind of wanted to go into like talking about like speedrunners' motivation or like what keeps people speedrunning, because I think for the three of us, it's pretty different. I mean, as Cam even said, he's only ever submitted for moving out, and that's kind of a distant past. But I think everyone kind of speedruns for their own reasons. So some people, really competitive nature, want to be the world record holder. For a lot of people, it's, you know, beating your personal best and doing that. But like for you guys, like where would you say like where does your motivation come from speedrunning, or like when you did speedrun, like why do you do it?
Well, the reason I kept doing it was the community. I really liked the fact that with speedrunning, it wasn't exactly like it is kind of competitive, but everyone works together.
Everyone works together, yeah.
To try and break the game, which is my favorite part of it. And so that's why I really enjoyed it. There's no pressure to be the fastest. You could just find some new strategy and tell everyone about it, and then
See what they do with it, right? Yeah.
I mean, and like you said, that's how we all met. Like first game I ever tried speedrunning, and I met you guys. It's pretty cool friendship, I think. So
we're friends, Cam?
We're kind of friends. I kind of hate you actually, but
me too.
I think everyone should get into speedrunning for that fact, just to meet people with similar interests. I think everyone that speedruns is a cool person.
Thanks, Cam.
Except for David. Except for David.
Except for David. David.
Yeah, so for me, I used to set goals for myself based on like times. Mm-hmm. So in Minecraft, it was like I would set a time barrier for me.
Like 30 minutes or something, right? Like arbitrarily. Yeah.
Definitely for random seed, it was 30 minutes. Once I got sub 30, I kind of calmed down on that. Mm-hmm. Set seed, it was like sub 3 minutes, sub 250, sub 245. I wanted to get a sub 230, but I never actually was able to do that. But just having those barriers that I could break myself, and just like stuff that I knew I could do, like even with rescue, like I could see minor optimizations in my own gameplay, even if even if I was already in first place, you know, like I saw places where I could improve, so I would grind more for a better time.
Mhm.
Just because I like finding those optimizations and going faster if I can.
Yeah,
Going fast.
going fast. I mean, yeah, I think obviously at its core for anyone that speedruns, we all do it because we have fun with it. Like if you weren't having fun with it, like I'd recommend to anyone that's speedrunning and isn't having fun, they should definitely just stop or find a different game or do something else, right? Like if you're not having fun, that's
What
literally
are
the
you
core
doing?
of gaming, right? Like if you're not having fun, there's no point in doing it, I kind of feel like. And for speedrunning,
Yeah.
that's like more so true than anything. Um, I guess a tangent from this, just because I have to bring it up because I always love bringing it up. I know of one circumstance where there is a person who is a very large member of a lot of communities when it comes to speedrunning because he's the world record holder for about a bajillion games. But he hates most of these games and he doesn't actually enjoy playing any of them. He just plays the games to have the world record. And I find that disgusting on so many levels because I don't understand why you do that like at all, especially for games that don't matter. Because like the reality of it is like you can play any random game, beat it semi fast, and say you have a world record, but like who cares, you know? So that bothers me so much. So if you're not having fun with the game, just don't speedrun it. You know, like when it comes to picking a game, like what game do you want to speedrun? Everyone will always tell you pick a game you like. Like don't pick a game you don't like because it's like you're not gonna just like randomly like it. That's not entirely true. Like there's obviously some niche examples that's not true, but generally you want to have to like the game. For me, my motivation personally definitely varies depending on what I'm doing. So when I went into my Die Hard craze in December, I'll be straight up about it. I wanted world record, like 100%. Like that was it for me. Like I really wanted that. I was very competitive about it. I obviously enjoyed the game. I love the game casually. I play it. I've literally played it for like hundreds of hours. But I wanted that world record. When it comes to like every other game ever, I don't really care if I have world record. Like moving out was a slight like exception to that, but even so, like Cam said, like it was mainly the community factor of like talking to people, and it was kind of like I'd beat a time to nudge other people to beat the time back because like then they're still playing, right? Because like
Yeah.
if there's no competitive nature, then everyone just sort of stops, right? Like there's no need to keep going. There, like
Yeah.
I liked the motivation of having other people play. In larger communities, that's not as big of a deal, right? Because like Minecraft, for example, there's always people playing the game. You're not necessarily competing with them, right? But like there's always people in the community. That's not true for smaller games. You need that competitive nature to keep people coming back. Um, but yeah, I'm kind of like the same as David, where it's like I pick like arbitrary time for games and kind of try to get past that barrier. And once I get past that barrier, I am typically like tapped out for most games. I kind of just move on to the next goal. Um, but my motivations often kind of lie in whatever like my friends are doing that I've met through speedrunning. So Cam and David here, like if one of them decided they wanted to play a game and speedrun it, so like David for example, I'm also pretty curious to do it. So for like we always bring it up at Pixel Strike when he started speedrunning it, it became a really funny night for us when we all decided to speedrun the same level to see who could do it the best. And it became a really fun experience. So stuff like that. Another big thing for me, shout out to 2C Plus, a very adamant speedrunner in like the retro community and has held quite a bit of records in like Cuphead and etc. He often points me towards retro games that he's enjoying running or like, marathon-esque events. And I find myself practicing those games and speedrunning those, which like, I mean, everyone can come from a different, background of why they speedrun. Some people, they'll pick Super Mario 64 because it was their childhood game and they'll play it for literally thousands of hours to try to get world record. And that's great for them, And other people like Small Ant on YouTube, he'll speedrun a challenge both for content and for enjoyment for other people. And just as a challenge to himself, because I'm pretty sure he's said in the past, he likes a challenge. He likes something that's a little harder, something different. And like, speedrunning for Cam, he likes really breaking games. He likes those like 80% runs that like completely devastates the game and breaks it, right? So like everyone kind of comes from a different background when it comes to it. No one does it for the exact same reason, but I think generally everyone does it for the same sort of heart of they enjoy speedrunning community, they enjoy the people, and they want it to see like foster that like nice community. And like Cam said, it's competitive, like there's competitiveness, but you're not competing in like a hostile manner. It is like you're trying to lower the time as a community together. So even if you're not the one beating the time, maybe you gave like maybe you told someone like a route change that allowed them to beat that time, right? Because you didn't have the skill or like the luck or whatever. Like you were still a part of something that got you there. And I think that's really, really cool. I think that's amazing. I know I just kind of went off like crazy there, but yeah.
I think what's really cool and like with the challenge video discussion, I like how there's on like Small Ant always puts a timer on his challenges just to see like how long it will take him.
Yeah.
And even though it's not like there's a leaderboard that
Yeah,
he's submitting
submittable,
to, but
yeah.
he's just like beating it with the time in mind. And I really like that mindset of like, these are the rules of this run that I'm doing, and this is the defined start and end. And like in Minecraft, there was a time where they were just making new categories constantly, like because people were wanting more things to speedrun. So it was like you'd start a world and you had to get a stack of lime wool, or you had to get a specific colored banner. And it was just these weird things that defined a specific run that people could try to optimize in whatever way they wanted to, which was really cool because it doesn't have to just be like beat the game. It's like you can have your game, but also try to do different things in it that maybe aren't even a subsection of beating the game, and have different routing.
Your own category.
Cool. Yeah.
To add challenge to it.
Yeah.
So you're not doing the same thing over and over again. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think Cam does that all the time with Back for Blood. I mean, he doesn't put a timer on the screen because, you know, he often doesn't beat it in like one sitting or takes forever. But yeah, like the idea of changing a game, like as Small Ant does, like, you know, modding it or like just creating your own personal rules and seeing how long it takes you to beat it. Like, you know, this is a different way to experience the game, I feel like.
Mm-hmm. Because I think a lot of people speedrun the games because they love them so much. And speedrunning does, in itself, even if you just do vanilla speedrunning, that's a new way of playing your favorite game.
Yeah, I think, is my next slide the slide that kind of nodes to this? But like, I think that's something that people that don't speedrun often miss. I think for whatever reason, people have this connotation with speedrunning where people want to beat the game so fast. Like maybe people think you want to beat it fast because you don't enjoy it. So if you beat it faster, you don't have to play it for as long, which makes no sense if you're which makes no sense if you're a speedrunner. But maybe that makes some convoluted sense to people that are outside of the speedrunning community.
If you don't want to play the game, just don't play the game.
Exactly. Is that my next slide? Okay, yeah, here, perfect. So we're just gonna segue into this, but like speedrunning hate by non-speedrunners. I have no other way to like word this, but as a person that like I'm like really like I don't like tweet or anything, or I don't like comment on stuff, but like I often read like Reddit, Twitter, like a lot of social media threads when it comes to speedrunning, just because like I like being up to date on what's going on a lot of the time. And a really big thing that has always been in the community, but has really been amplified like during quarantine and like over the last like 2 years or whatever, is for whatever reason a massive hate towards speedrunning, and it makes no sense to me. And so on the left side there we have Evangelo, and this makes a little bit more sense to us. Like it makes more sense. This makes more sense, but still doesn't make 100% sense to me. But in Back for Blood, there's a lot of hate towards people that speedrun the game, and Evangelo is a character. When you see him in your like online lobbies, you can assume he's speedrunning. But
I think the thing is that those people aren't technically speedrunners.
Yeah.
They are just running through the game as fast as they can because they want to beat it, but they aren't actual speedrunners. They're not doing it for a time or anything like that. So I think the hate is justified for those people because they are ruining the game. But the fact that it gets put back onto speedrunners in general and how they're ruining the game that's not right. Because when I was speedrunning the game, I do it in training mode by myself where I wasn't even earning anything. I was just doing it to try and beat the game as fast as I could. But yeah, those people that go in online matches and run through it, they aren't speedrunners. So the hate should be put onto that community.
And then you have like the opposite. Like you have people who just run to the end, but like Back for Blood has infinite hordes. Like I was playing yesterday with a team on the Sound of Thunder where they just wouldn't load the howitzer. And I'm like, guys, if you don't load the howitzer, the level's not going to end. you can stand here and fight Ridden all day, but you have to fill the howitzer. Like, and it's not speed running to try to finish the level. You know, like you have to push.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think it is a weird association people have where people that beat the game fast in these multiplayer sections, like they associate that with the speedrunning community, and like people that like actually like submit their times, which like as Cam alluded to, like isn't the case. Like those people aren't the same people. Like Cam wasn't the guy in your online lobby ruining your experience because he can run to the end in Nightmare as Evangelo, right? He wasn't doing that. But
No.
like it is weird that people kind of go out of their way to complain to speedrunners about how they're playing the game incorrectly. And like even Cam and like us on our channel, like we've seen it where like when we were posting all those like how to speedrun, like, you know, through Nightmare or whatever else it was, people would comment and be like, and it was a small minority, but like for our YouTube videos, but people would still comment and be like, you're playing the game wrong. Like, how dare you, blah, blah, blah. And people would come into our streams when like we were like trying to speedrun the game or whatever, and they'd say you're playing the game wrong, which is super weird because as Cam said, he was doing this offline in training mode where no one was affected, and he literally didn't earn credit for beating this stuff, right? Like he was only doing this to see if he could do it. So it doesn't affect any of these people that bother to comment. So it is really weird that people bother to like comment on how other people are playing the game when it doesn't affect their personal experience, right? Like if you're not in the same multiplayer lobby.
yeah, I've seen a lot of talk about when No Hope came out, how people wanted to be the first ones to beat it, or how they wanted to like show off to the Reddit that they were able to beat No Hope, and that like everybody else was like mad at them for beating No Hope quickly, even though like what's the opposite of that? Like how slow do you have to go for it to be okay? You know, like
Yeah.
I don't know. Like you just play the game at your own speed. And if you want to go fast, that's fine. If you want to go slow, you're not going to finish the game, but that's up to you, I guess.
Yeah, that's how you want to play the game. If you want to just kill endless hordes because it's fun for you,
Yeah,
that's
I
fine.
mean,
I mean,
I've definitely had times where it's like, do we want to go into this room and call a horde? Sure, we have the health. Let's just do it for fun. But like that's a choice that you get to make. You shouldn't hate on others for not doing it.
Yeah. I see what you're saying. Like someone has to beat the game at some point. Why are they mad because someone did it first?
someone was the first,
Yeah.
right? You wonder in those circumstances, like in those situations, would people be less upset if it was like a person that they liked or like a person they know? Is it like the issue that it's like some random, like, do people associate being the first at something being like cocky? Or is it the like, because like just because you beat it first, right, and you want to share that, that doesn't mean you're arrogant or cocky. That just, you just want to be like, hey guys, I have this accomplishment. I think it's cool. Maybe you think it's cool too, right? It's kind of how you go about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not like
Actually-
they're trying to say they're the best at the game.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Yeah, this ties in really well with something that happened maybe a week or two ago where I posted something that I found out about Back for Blood in a Back for Blood channel on Discord, and someone called me out because he said I was looking for attention by posting it. I'm like, but it's true and it's interesting and I wanted other people to know. But just the fact that I had said it meant that I was the one looking for attention. Except if you apply that logic to anybody, then
Nobody
no
says
one
it.
would ever be able to say it.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that doesn't make sense to me.
But there was also another reason. Pretty sure that person wasn't allowed to say it, so they're mad that you could and you figured it out.
Well, that's besides the point, but still, like,
Yeah, I don't know. People
like just the fact that you're
reading-
posting something doesn't mean you're looking for clout or attention. Like sometimes people just post things because they're true and want other people to know.
Yeah,
You
people
know?
reading into intentions, like especially people you don't know personally at all, is pretty absurd. Like, I don't know, I think all too often in like online gaming communities like that, when it comes to like presenting information in those scenarios or like presenting an accomplishment, I think people often think the worst when they don't know you. And if they know you, they think the best like immediately, which is like very unfair on all sides.
Mhm.
Because like if that guy knew you personally, right, or if like you were a friend, obviously he wouldn't comment, right? Even if it was the exact same approach that you had, if he had just talked to you previously, maybe he just wouldn't care, which is like completely unfair.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I find the speedrunning hate in Back for Blood to be like pretty, like I understand like some people have reason to do it, like believe that like, oh, speedrunners ruin the game because a person beat the game fast in my multiplayer lobby, and I associate that with speedrunners because they want to beat the game fast in their own lobby, right? But as we said, those aren't the same people. Those aren't speedrunners. But what I find even weirder is games like Elden Ring, for whatever reason, people have an issue with speedrunners in that game, which makes even less sense to me. So I don't know if you guys, I've complained about this a lot, so maybe if you guys have heard me before, just like
I've heard you complain, but I've never seen anything.
Yeah, so hear me out for a second. Like I said, I'm all over on social media and on Twitter. So when Elden Ring came out, you know, Elden Ring, very popular Dark Souls-esque game, new game, everyone kind of loves the game, absolutely booming sales. Everyone was talking about it on Twitter. A big thing, you know, is naturally like other Dark Souls games, people are going to speedrun it because it's a very popular game. People speedrun every popular game, and it was a very natural game for people who want to speedrun. And most people speedrunning it are people that have played thousands of hours of Dark Souls games and previous world record holders for those games and absolutely adore the games. For whatever reason, a couple of weeks, you know, first patch comes out at Elden Ring. Elden Ring patches out some sort of mechanic, regardless of the point, we're not going to talk about it, whatever. And it changes how the speedrun is going to function going forward. And there become all these threads of people that are holier than us who decided that, oh, speedrunners are all playing the game wrong. You guys aren't fully enjoying the game. You're not playing it properly. La-di-da-di-da. And they were very adamant towards these people about how they were playing the game incorrectly, how they weren't playing the game right, they weren't doing it justice. But it makes no sense to me because not a single one of these people that are speedrunning the game, they weren't speedrunning it for the first time. Mind you, you're perfectly allowed to speedrun a game having never played the game normally before. But that wasn't the case for any of these people. All these people played through the game casually the first time through because they are diehard Dark Souls fans. And then after playing through the game normally, they wanted to speedrun it naturally because that's what they've done for every other game. But all these massive Twitter threads with thousands of likes and thousands of comments were coming in. And it was a very popular opinion. The speedrunners were in a minority that these people were playing the game incorrectly. They weren't doing it right. And while this is like a niche scenario for like specifically Elden Ring, like this was like a recent example, it is just general popular media for whatever reason to hate on speedrunning and specifically speedrunning newer games. And I don't understand it whatsoever because when it comes to any of these offline single player games, the way you play the game doesn't affect anyone else in any capacity, you know? Like what do you guys think about that? Like how do you, like, where do you think these guys, like, where are they coming from to hate on how another person plays a game?
I personally don't think that there is a wrong way to play the game. Like in a story game like Elden Ring, you're supposed to get to the end, beat the final boss. So like whether that is by beating all of the bosses along the way and collecting all of those things to unlock doors or skipping around doors, like if that is part of the game and possible in the game, then that's a valid way to get to the end and beat the boss. Just because you can't do the glitch or don't want to do the glitch doesn't mean someone else beat it incorrectly. It just means that you took a different path to get there and theirs happened to be faster. And for them, they like faster routes, and for you, you like to beat the bosses, and those are both valid ways of playing the game. I just don't see why one is more correct than the other. Like, I don't know.
I think it's like, especially with these two examples, Elden Ring obviously is supposed to be seen as like a hard game. Like Dark Souls are supposed to be hard games. And then same with Back for Blood, it is also seen as a hard game. I think people get upset with speedrunners because speedrunning does make the game easier in ways, and they probably think it just takes away from their own accomplishment, which is kind of like selfish. Because like, why does it matter?
Yeah.
And And also, like, some people will beat the game. Like, Swing Point has beaten Nightmare without any cards, but people don't get upset when he does that. Doesn't that also take away from your accomplishment
Yeah, 'cause
of
if
beating
he can
Nightmare?
beat it, if he can beat it with no help, like,
Yeah.
what does that say about you, right? Like,
Yeah. So how that's what I don't understand is you have to be upset with both or neither.
Yeah. And even on this topic, like the that no card nightmare is not like a mod or anything. That's just inherent in the game, and they just decided to run with no deck and pick. I think they just picked ammo cards.
yeah, something
But
like
Yeah.
that.
but like that is a deck choice that you can make going into the game. And you're allowed to make any deck that's possible within the game and run the game in that way. And I think that any individual deck is a different way to play the game. And I don't think that there's any inherent value to playing it like one deck over another deck or having no deck. And it's just the value that you put on it yourself of this is what I want to do and can I do it? And setting goals for yourself. And I don't think that anybody else's goals are not valid. I don't get that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's strange to me that, like, as you guys described, like, selfish almost, of how just because someone else plays the game, how that, like, affects your accomplishment in some way, where, like, it really shouldn't. But even if it did, like, why would you take away from someone else's own accomplishment? It's like, I don't know, you're doing the same thing, right? Like, if they're taking away from yours, why would you take away from theirs? Like, there's no need. I don't know. In terms of this, like, topic, I find it interesting that I find most of this hate towards speedrunners to only be towards like newer games, or like games that are in like the last 10 years or so. Like retro games, it's almost like a notion that if you're still playing them, like, you should be speedrunning them, and they're almost held to like a glorified like pedestal.
True.
By like news outlets and like social media, where it's like, oh, you got the SMB world record. Like, yes, of course, beat that game fast. But like, why is that any, like, what? Like, why is that any different? Like, yes, sure. Like, you know, you're not like a casual gamer playing Super Mario Bros. Anymore, probably. But like, that game wasn't intended to be beaten in less than 5 minutes when it came out. Like, that wasn't the intention. That's true for like Zelda, like any old game, right? But people don't go around on Twitter saying like, or like, you know, discourse or wherever else, like, the discourse on it isn't that you're playing the game improperly. It's held to like, wow, you broke the game. That's really cool. But like, it's really weird to me. And especially when it comes to newer games, even if you beat the game like fast, glitchless, people will be upset. But what really upsets people is when you beat it with like glitches and like, you know, absolutely break the game, have zips, skip bosses, do whatever. Because yeah, people think it's easier, right? It is an easier, quotations, an easier way to beat the game. Mind you, like, I don't know.
So what?
Yeah, why does it matter, right? Who cares if it's easier for them to beat the game that way? That's the fast way to do it, so that's why they do it. But people get so upset that you're playing a game with glitches. And I don't know why. I think there's like a massive misconception to why speedrunners play games fast. I think people like, I don't know, maybe people see that someone beats the game fast and see that they post their time, and they go, wow, you think you're so cool that you did that? You didn't even do it properly. But like, that's not why they're posting it, right? They're not posting it to be like, hey, I did it faster than you. They're posting
and they're
their
not
time.
posting it for you.
Yeah, no, they're posting it, right? Because they themselves are very proud that they beat that time, or they beat their previous time, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
It shouldn't affect any normal person that plays the game how they play the game, right?
Yeah, and you're just posting it to like, if you're posting it to speedrun leaderboards, you're only posting it for other speedrunners who want to beat it.
Yeah,
Like,
right. It's a
if you're
comparable
casual,
time.
then it's not for you. Don't look at it. Like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I don't know why it's a really big thing for casual gamers or people that play games normally to get upset about someone else beating a game. And I do think how Cam said it, where it's like, if like someone does a challenge run and it's your favorite YouTuber and they do it, why don't you get upset about that too, right? They didn't play the game how it was intended to be played. I know that's like, we feel here that there is no actual way for the game, like an intended way, right? However you play it and have fun is a viable way. But Yeah, if you're going to get upset about how one person plays it, you should get upset about how everyone plays it if it isn't the same way you played it, which we describe as, pretty illogical way of thinking about it, but at least be like wholehearted about how you feel. Don't be like halved about it. Don't only call out the speedrunning community, who generally is a very wholesome community, right? They have very well intentions. They just want people to enjoy the passion of the game like they do,
Yeah. I feel like most of the time speedrunners play the game more than
I would say
others.
like 100% of the time speedrunners
Yeah.
play games more than the normal person would,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, just look at us when it comes to moving out. We all probably have like 100 hours in the game or something.
Definitely.
Probably.
Yeah, which is like no shot your normal player is playing it for that long. Even a completionist probably doesn't play the game that long, right?
I have 300 hours.
There you go. So,
Holy.
but yeah, I wish there was a way for it to be easily portrayed to people that are speedrunner haters why speedrunners play the game the way they do. I don't think we should have to explain ourselves to those people, but I wish there was an easy way to explain it to them so it isn't misconstrued to other people that don't have positive or negative feelings towards speedrunning. Because I think when people come out and say all those negative things about speedrunning, it kind of creates this bubble effect where everyone's saying it there, and the people that don't have an opinion kind of just go to that opinion because it's the easy one to go to,
Mm-hmm.
Or if that's like the only discourse you're seeing on it, you go, yeah, why would people play a game like that without actually
speedrunners
understanding?
are the minority. Like speedrunning isn't like a huge community in most games.
Yeah, it's like growing as a whole, but yeah, speedrunning is very small, massive minority,
Yeah.
But, and, I think that leads
Classic
perfectly.
gamers being oppressed.
I think that leads perfectly.
I'm oppressed.
I'm oppressed. Into the next topic of game developers' relationship with speedrunning. And
Gamer oppression by the developers.
so, as we've kind of just said, how speedrunners are a minority and a very, very small group of people when it comes to whole game player bases. Game developers, for whatever reason, either really support or really like to pick on speedrunners for some reason. And I'll say it doesn't make a lot of sense to me negatively why you would. But so example here, I'll start with the negative so we can lead into the positive and all the good stuff that game developers are doing. But in like Back 4 Blood, if speedrunners find a glitch per se, and it allows you to beat a level easier or faster or whatever, that's cool, And more often than not, these glitches are something that your normal player would never experience in a million years. Maybe 1 out of a million players or playthroughs, someone will get this glitch. Otherwise, you have to like really, set up pixel perfect, frame perfect, whatever, right? And a lot of developers, for whatever reason, like to patch these out to make their game, I guess, better, more whole. I don't know. I feel like more often than not, these glitches upset the people that really loved your game and doesn't affect everyone else in the slightest, So,
Yeah.
like, how do you guys feel about that? How do you feel about developers that actively are taking away from speedruns or taking away or patching out things? Like, how do we feel about that?
I think they're just out of touch. They just don't know their player base.
It's kind of like annoying that they're using speedrunners as like their play testers, and then like you said, they're patching out bugs that don't affect most people. Like in Back 4 Blood, they've patched out a lot of like skips and stuff in the game. Yet yesterday I was trying to play it and go down a ladder properly, and they still have the glitch where you'll like grab
Or
onto the
fall or
ledge
whatever.
and
Yeah.
go into the down state, and then the bots are still too stupid to grab you. They'll also go into the down state. That's been in the game since the start, and yet they haven't fixed that. But they'll go and take every single speedrunning strat out of the game. That's what annoys me. When there's other bugs, those shouldn't be the priority. After, if the game is like perfectly fixed, then you can start taking those ones and focus on that. But before then, you should probably focus on bugs that are affecting every single person playing the game.
Yeah. I think that their priorities are in the wrong spots. Again.
Yeah.
But I also think that it's sort of like a scapegoat. Like speedrunners are scapegoats a lot of the time because game devs I guess Turtle Rock specifically will say, "Oh, well, we know that you didn't like speedrunners, quote unquote, right? Like we are talking about
Yeah.
evangelos who run to the end of the level.
Yeah.
Even though those aren't speedrunners,
Yeah.
instead of adding some component like a breaker circle that doesn't let you run to the end of the level without your team, they make things that affect actual speedrunners in solo and nerfing move speed cards, which not only does that hurt actual speedrunners, but it doesn't stop the people they were trying to stop.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really solve the problem that they say they're solving, and it just makes more problems.
Mm-hmm.
And now everyone's upset.
Yeah.
So I just think that their solutions have not been very considerate of the problem. They've been very short-sighted.
Yeah. I think because like I'm not a game developer, so like maybe I don't know, maybe seeing bugs is just like irritating for people. But like, you know,
It's not.
as we've said, like the games will always have bugs and other bugs affect more people more often. And yeah, they literally it's so I don't know, it's so weird, right? Because they only find out about these bugs because speedrunners are actively doing them a lot of the time. Or like people that watch speedrunners do them. So the people that love your game and are playing it actively a lot, you take away something that they're doing because it doesn't affect majority of people, you know.
Yeah, I mean, having developed games before, it's like the bugs that people don't like are the ones that they do by accident.
Yeah.
Because if it's bad and they do it by accident, then it feels like they're getting too punished. If it's good and they do it by accident, it feels like they're missing content. But if it's something you have to go out of your way to do on purpose, it feels like they're rewarded for something, right? Like if you're breaking a game intentionally and the game breaks, it feels like, oh, well, that's cool. I discovered something new about this game. It doesn't feel like, oh God, this game sucks because I was able to break it by doing this specific button combination that I would never happen to do unless I was trying to break the game. No one does that. It's just the things that happen by accident, which a lot of the things they're patching are not.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to be clear, it's not just Turtle Rock Studios with Back for Blood. It's a bunch of games do this. Like, a lot of games will make a patch, and that's why you see really often you have speedrunners that will literally just play the game on an older patch because they want their, you know, skip back or whatever. They want it back, which, you know, on Steam, it is very easy to play on a down patched version a lot of the time.
Yep.
But the fact
Even
that
Minecraft.
Yeah, but the fact that people have to play the game that way just for like speedrun is kind of silly. Like, you're making the people that love your game possibly the most or play the game the most, they can't play the completed version of it because you took out something that they considered to be enjoyable or complete in its own right. And I think as you described, as you said at the beginning, I think they're just out of touch. They just don't get their player base.
Yeah. Even in like Minecraft, the Minecraft speedrun right now is traditionally 1.16.1 because that update is just the fastest because they patch some stuff out. And in that specific case, I can understand because it does actually affect normal gameplay. But it's a big consideration for speedrunners of the game to say, do we move to the newest update every time an update comes out? Are the options that it gives us enough to offset the time loss of not having the old skips?
Yeah.
And it's a very delicate balance of like, what version do we run on? And that actually happened in Super Mario Odyssey, where for a long time people were speedrunning on the 1.0 version because there was a specific skip that was only possible on 1.0. But one of the newer updates that had actually patched out that skip had faster load times throughout the run. So despite not being able to do the skip that saved a few seconds, they had more time gain over the rest of the run to make it worth it to play on a newer version. But if they had a version with faster load times and that skip, then that would be the fastest version. It's just like patching out that skip that normal people didn't encounter is like, why? I don't know.
Yeah. It's like weird. And then like this is like something that game developers like can't consider, but like perfect examples for Back for Blood. So even if they don't like patch out like any skips or anything, newer versions of the game always just like invalidate every old run. You know, like it is always the question of, like, do you move the whole community to the newest version, or does everyone keep running on the old one where like all the runs already exist? And like that's something that
That's
I
the
don't
problem with speedrunning in general.
yeah, that's something I don't blame
Speedrunning
game
games,
developers for, right? Like, yeah, when patch games, like, things change, like, yeah, the community just has to make a decision. But it's just when they're actively
Yeah.
patching out things that only affect speedrunners or, like, most actively affect speedrunners, it's like, why do you even, like, push the patch then? Because, like, speedrunners will avoid the patch, and then the new player, and then everyone else just won't even notice it, right? So... But I think that's enough on the negatives in terms of how game developers interact with, you know, speedrunners or like how they see speedrunners. So kind of wanted to talk about some of the good that I think a lot of actual newer game developers and like some old ones are doing so. So on the right here, we have a picture of Celeste, a very beloved platforming game. And as we can see there's an option in the game menu for a speedrun clock. And that is not too uncommon in a lot of games. But I think there are game developers nowadays that are being associated with speedrunners and keeping in things actively for them, which is really cool.
Yeah. I think Celeste is like a very good example of this, where the speedrunning tech that evolved out of the basic mechanics were not patched out, but instead were made part of the game.
Yeah.
So they were, instead of patching them out, they actually teach you how to do
they
them
taught players that it didn't
in
know
the
them.
later levels. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can beat the game without having to do it. But in order to beat some of the extra levels, like the B-sides and C-sides, you have to know how to do this tech. And those are not even part of the normal game. So if you can't do it, it's fine. But it's for people who want that extra ability in the game. So I think that's
Basically
really cool.
teaching people like how to speedrun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like once you learn this tech, like at the very end of the game, after you've beaten the game, then they teach you the tech to be able to beat the harder levels. But it works right from the start. So if you restart the game and you take that tech you learned post game into the beginning of the game, you can just do that the whole time.
I didn't know it did that.
Yeah.
I guess I've never played the game, so.
Yeah, it's like you could have done it the entire time. You just didn't know how, because again, they were things that you have to do specific button combinations to get.
So they really did embrace speedrunning community.
Yeah, 100% they did. Yeah.
Wow, that's cool.
And
Yeah.
there's a lot of examples of that more so. And like, I think the series that's really cool is like the game developers reacting to speedruns.
Oh yeah.
On IGN. I don't generally love IGN. I think it's IGN, right? I don't love IGN's content. But that series in general, very cool because you get live reactions from people that made these very popular games. And more often than not, the people that go onto that channel will actively say, "Oh, that's so cool. I didn't know about that. We can't patch that out." Or, "Oh, we knew about that. We left that in because we thought speedrunners would really like it." And I think that's just, I don't know, as a person that's speedrunning games, I always have a big smile on my face when I hear game developers say that, because I think it's really cool that they're thinking about us sometimes. And I think Celeste is like one example of that, where like they fully embraced it. I know recently I watched, because I was playing this game Tunic, which was like a Dark Souls-esque game is how they described it. And the game developers in their IGN video were talking about all the different skips that they specifically put in for speedrunners, because if they knew they existed, they'd be able to beat the game really fast, but it wouldn't affect people that didn't know about it. But then if you replayed the game, you were introduced to these ideas. So then you could play the game fast like a speedrunner. And it was really cool. And listening to these game developers talk about how like, oh, we would never patch that out because like the speedrunners would hate us, I find to be so hysterical, because it's like, yeah, the number of speedrunners for this game is really small, but you don't want these people that love your game to hate you. And I think that's just so cute. I think that's so amazing, right? And I think it's like an approach that like embracing speedrunners, or at least like, I think acknowledging them is just such a cool thing. Like the simple thing of adding a speedrun clock to your menu is just like, for me, is so cool, because it's like, all I have to do is flick this on and now I can speedrun the game, right? Like I have to do nothing else. And I think that's so cool, and it's really not asking a lot from game developers.
Actually, that's really funny, because Back for Blood actually has a speedrun timer still in the game.
They have a speedrun objective.
Yeah. It's a timer that counts down while you play the game. So the fact that devs are nerfing speedrunning cards, hating on quote unquote speedrunners who run to the end of the level, and then still actively encouraging it with in-game copper is so, I don't even know what to call it. It's just dumb. It's like they don't know what they want.
Yeah,
Do you
I
think it'd be better if they acknowledge that speedrunners found like some of the glitches they patch out?
No, just don't patch them.
I don't think it would make a difference. Yeah, I don't think, because it's like, I don't know. We feel all too often that it's like our streams getting watched, and it's like we say something's cool and we like it, and they immediately patch it. I know that's not what's happening, but that's what it feels like.
No, but like 100%
all too often.
devs, Turtle Rock devs watch Swing Point play, and they take note of how he specifically, but also just gamers in general, feel about the game. And so, like, it's a very specific kind of person that gets to contribute to what the devs ultimately do. And not to badmouth Swing Pointer in his chat, but they're not speedrunners, so they don't know what speedrunners want.
Yeah, they have I think that's like the perfect group of people that have like a preconceived notion on like how speedrunners act, because they imagine those evangelos running around in their game.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what they associate with speedrunning.
Exactly.
I think, I know Turtle Rock doesn't do this, but like, for example, like blanking on Moving Out's, what's their studio called? I'm blanking.
Team 17.
Yeah, so like Team 17, like they actively reached out to speedrunners to like play their next game or play test their next game, which like I think is really cool, because you immediately know, right, you're gonna get a speedrunner's perspective on like the game. And I know more and more game studios are doing this. I mean, not like the big ones, but like smaller indie game things want speedrunners' opinions a lot of the time before the game's fully released, which I think is really cool, because like it is just one approach to playing the game and one opinion. And not to say all speedrunners think the same, right? Because we definitely don't. But having a speedrunner's opinion at like that state of the game, I think is really important and really cool, because we do like see the game differently often, or like want different things. And considering us, I just really appreciate. And I know that's not always feasible for everyone, and not every game holds itself as well to speedrunning. But the fact that they were considering us in a positive manner rather than just taking away from us in a negative, I think is really important.
For some reason, that would feel better, play testing, so they can take out the bugs rather than we play test without them saying anything to us and then take out the bugs.
Yeah, pay us for it.
Like,
pay us for it.
I don't even know, right? Because it's like, if you're gonna take out the bugs, at least like let us like acknowledge that and like talk to us, rather than just like.
That's what I was saying with Turtle Rock. If they would have just acknowledged that speedrunners found the glitches they took out, would it be better? I think it would be.
I think in that scenario, it's like, yeah, if they just added the patch notes, speedrunners found these things, so we patched it. Like that's not covering the wound for me.
You'd have to
like
join the Discord like Team 17.
Yeah, you basically have to make speedrunning like a secret operation, like Prohibition style. Like if anyone sees you do a skip, they're gonna patch it and they're gonna blame you for it.
Because
so you have to do it undercover and have a private leaderboard of skip, including runs. Like,
because I think it's different going about it than watching people that play your game or watching speedruns of it and be like, oh, how'd they do that, and like figuring out yourself. Or being like, joining the Back 4 Blood speedrunning Discord and like messaging people, or like, you see a YouTube video of like a glitched spot, messaging that person. I know that's probably not a very professional way to go about it, but like
that's the only way to get what you want. Yeah,
exactly. Right, exactly. So like, if that's the acknowledgement, then I think that's a better way to go about it. But I think if it's adding in the patch notes, like, we have noticed in speedrunning communities, they've been using these glitches, so we patched them all. Like, that's not getting it done for me.
Shadow Witch posted a new video yesterday.
Shadow Witch. No.
And it's gone.
Yeah, no. So
just take the entire channel, everything.
So I don't know. I think games like Celeste have done it right. I acknowledge that not every game, holds itself to that like possibility. but I think actively taking away from speedrunning communities is always a negative, unless like very specifically like a glitch is game breaking that everyone would experience, because those do exist, you know, like that can happen, but
What?
all too often that's not the
think,
case.
Like in past games, I feel like a lot of people have like positive memories with glitches in games as well. Even in Left 4 Dead, there was glitches where you could go somewhere and it was a god spot. I think people have
That's
good
playing
memories
the game
of those.
wrong, Cam.
I don't know. Maybe it's just
It's
me.
too easy.
Too easy.
You're cheating. You're cheating. Ah.
Glitches can be fun, and not all of them have to be fixed.
Glitches are not fun. I can't think of any examples right now, but I know that there have been glitches in some games where they can be done by accident and they save time, but they're like unreliable. And it's just like, how do you ban something or patch something out that's like just like you do it by accident and you don't realize it? Like, I don't know.
It wouldn't
like,
even affect like your gameplay.
Yeah.
You wouldn't even notice. Yeah.
It doesn't affect normal gameplay, and it's just like even speedrunners can't take full advantage of it because they don't know how to do it either. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I know it's like, okay, we were just talking about game developers and how some of them hate on speedrunning, and like normal gamers and how they hate on it. It makes so much less sense to me why game developers hate speedrunning, because it's like the people that are most passionate about your game, you know? So you should love them because they're the ones that love your game.
And play testing for free.
Money.
Yeah.
That's my only answer is money.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Because speedrunners, you can't sell things to because they just want to play your original game. You want to satisfy the casuals who will buy your DLC.
True.
That's it. Which sucks because the casuals are going to buy the game, play for 5 minutes, and if it's garbage, they're going to leave. But you already have their money.
Yeah.
So there's no incentive to upkeep your game. All you got to do is get them in.
Speedrunners oppressed.
Okay,
Yeah.
so moving on to, I believe, the last topic.
For sure.
I think it's the last
For
topic.
sure, dude.
And the question of the day. So
Try being a speedrunner in 2022.
So we were talking about how speedrunning is a very small community, and it is one that I said is growing. And I was just curious on how you guys best think speedrunning could be introduced to a wider audience. So I think, like, you know, channels like Small Ant is the perfect example of like content creation that is aimed at, you know, general public audience.
Oh my god, it's virtual.
Yeah, so here we have Summoning Salt and Virtual, also two, you know, very different angles to how they approach speedrunning and introducing it. But I do think they're, for most standards, pretty like widespread content creators. So you don't have to be a speedrunner in your own right to really enjoy Summoning Salt videos, you know? Like, they're just history videos on what happened to be speedrunning for different games. And they are excellent content and super amazing. Virtual, same way, you know, storytelling elements. And for me, I always stress on it that I love the storytelling elements that you can get when it comes to like the history of speedrunning and stuff. You know, I'm always there for it. And I think it's really cool that channels are doing it like this. I think it's really cool that channels like Small Ant are doing challenge runs that are in speedrunning. But like, how do you guys think it's the best way to go about it to make speedrunning more widespread?
Putting it in games like we were talking about before. Just putting a timer option.
Just putting it in the game. Yeah.
So do you guys think it's like on the side of like game developers, they should like, because like, I mean, as you kind of said, right, David, like they don't have much financial incentive to do it, right? Because they're not getting more money out of you.
Yep.
So are we at like a hard lock there where it's like the people that can make like the largest impact on the speedrunning communities, like,
yep,
they don't have an incentive to do it?
Basically. Yeah, I mean, just look at how Nintendo's treating competitive Melee. Like, there's no incentive. Yeah, why are they satisfying these people?
True.
which is why they're not.
Yeah.
I mean, there's really there's no solution there. Like, I don't know. We kind of have to just. I mean, I think the best way to convince people is for the devs to embrace it, but I don't think the devs have any incentive to do that. So we have to find ways to,
Other ways, yeah.
yeah, not as good ways, but ways that actually will get done. And I think like telling these stories and also just showing like how some things are really difficult. Like a lot of the time when people say, "Oh, you're playing the game wrong," it's because they think that it's making the game easier, and sometimes it is, but sometimes it makes it way harder.
Yeah.
You know, like a specific skip for a boss, like you might as well just beat the boss because it's easy, but it takes 5 minutes. Versus if you waste 2 minutes trying the same skip repeatedly, but then you eventually get it, that still saves time. So I think those kinds of things of like seeing people's skill at work is good for convincing people. Um, and ultimately just making sure that they don't have any negative experiences with relating to speedrunning. Like just looking back at the Evangelo thing, like,
Yeah, that's what you associate with it, right?
yeah, yeah. And it's not anything that actual speedrunners can control, but like if you are a person that speedruns in public lobbies, just don't.
Yeah, I think speedrunners need to take an active hand in making a positive experience for other people. So for me, when I was speedrunning moving out, I took it upon myself for whenever someone was on the leaderboard and submitted a time, so they consider themselves a speedrunner, I'd message them on speedrunner.com and tell them to join the Discord to talk to us.
Dang.
That's true.
Isn't Cam so lucky that he submitted his runs for one game in his whole life?
Yeah, so like,
Led
and
me
like,
to this point.
no, like honestly, and then like those people, they got their friends and stuff, and I mean that's just a small example of like making a small part of a small community, right? But it's like it wouldn't have existed if I didn't take an like extra effort, like an active effort into doing that. And I think speedrunners generally need to take more active like measures if we want the speedrunning community to at least maintain its size, because I say it's growing, but it's only growing in like certain communities and like in some capacity, like overall speedrunning is growing, but that doesn't mean every speedrunning community is growing, right? Like a lot of speedrunning communities have one person submit a run and then die, or like have a couple people and then no longer have runs, which
Rip Sabumafu.
and I mean, that's the
No.
nature of speedrunning. It's kind of hard for communities to always grow or like stay competitive. Like that's just the nature of it.
Yeah,
I mean,
especially old games.
exactly. It's really hard. But I think there's things that speedrunners can do that aren't just big content creators. Because I think, okay, we're talking about how game developers have the largest impact. For me, how I see it, in terms of growing and just straight like growing it, content creators, the big ones that post, are like the biggest influence. So when when people that don't typically speedrun post a video of them speedrunning, there is like an immediate boom in the community. And while not everyone will stay in the long term, I do think they more often than not have a positive influence and like growth on those communities. So like the perfect example I have for that, as I believe it was Jaden, right, Animations, that posted the cooking mama. I could just be like butchering but I think it was her. So she posted it, and that community absolutely like skyrocketed in size because like all these random viewers were like, I want to do that, I can do that, and they all did it. Mind you, I don't think all those people stayed. I think most of them would have left. But I do maybe assume that at least a handful of them had realized they like speedrunning and probably continued doing it. And that's just true for like a lot of games. I think it might even just be small line. I can't remember, but one of the big normal speedrunner people that like post videos posted a video for like putt. I don't remember. Does anyone remember if it was small ant or if it was someone else? Does anyone know about what I'm talking about? Okay, so either way,
I remember this. I
yeah,
think it
so
was Small Ant.
yeah, I think it was small ant. He posted a video of putt, which is like, if you don't know, it's like a point and click like child's game, and he like speedran on his channel, and he had the like cleverness and
it was.
respect. Okay, it was him. He had the respect to join the Putt Discord, like the speedrunning community, and tell them, hey guys, I'm going to do this just to let you guys know, like you're going to get an influx of people probably, just like heads up. And I think that's really cool for them to have the awareness. I mean, Smollett's obviously a speedrunner, so he'd know that this was going to happen. But when big people do that kind of stuff, it allows people to like prepare for it, because yeah, a random influx isn't always a good thing either, right? Like that can lead to, you know, negative experiences for a lot of people, because it is a lot to handle, especially when it comes to like Discord text communities. Like, you know, it is really hard to understand everyone's opinion, what everyone's saying. It's hard to get across, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think people that come from like higher up points, I think they need to make an effort to like, if they are introducing like a smaller community to a lot of people, they have to be willing to like support that community in some capacity while they're doing it, rather than just using it as like quick like clickbait or whatever, like whatever reason. And I don't think most of the big speedrunners do that. I think most of those big channels are very like wholesome when it comes to that. I think speedrunning is generally a wholesome community, but I do think they need to be careful with it for what I think normal speedrunners can do. And I think it's really simple. And I got taught this early on in my speedrunning, and Cam doesn't do this, but it's posting your speedruns. It's actually insane.
Damn.
I think it's actually insane.
I know, I'm terrible.
How useful it is, because Cam's like the perfect example of this, right? So he speedruns, he enjoys it. He's one of the most wholesome people you could ever experience, like ever, just like generally. But more importantly, in the Back for Blood like speedrunning community, he's one of the most wholesome people that just does it for the love of the game, 100%, right? And it's something as simple as him posting, him doing the speedrun and enjoying himself. Like that goes so far, right? Anyone that watches that and sees that, that's such a big deal. And like for me, like when I look up speedruns, all too often you either A, don't see speedruns posted for games, even if there's like a record for it, or it's like all too often in like a different language or can't understand it. But B, if there is a run that exists, there is like no commentary on it, or there's no explanation on anything, or it's like, you know, you don't get anything out of it. And the only exception to this is for like events like, you know, Games Done Quick, where you have like live commentary for it and can like get the whole run explained to you. And those runs go so far in making those communities grow, you know? Mm-hmm. And like, I'm not saying like, you know, a person that has 10 subscribers or even us at like 2,000, right? You're not going to post a video of Back for Blood speedrunning, commentating, explaining the whole thing, and then like we're booming the community, right? Like that's not what I'm saying. But it helps, right? And like every little bit adds to it, because like the more of it that's out there on YouTube, the more of it that can get recommended to people.
Yeah, just think of how many people like found our channel from some video we're posting about how to get your SWAT skins or how to mod the game, and then they'll just stumble on a speedrunning video and they'll be like, well, this seems interesting too. You know, like, I don't know, just using it as a gateway. And we're not influencing that many people, but
no, I mean, like,
no, you're right. If I did start posting my speedruns, it'd be better than just not.
Then not, exactly.
Right?
And no, and I was like the same way when I first started, because when I first started, and I still do this, it's a really bad habit of mine, but I just clip everything as VODs on Twitch, because I just stream everything on Twitch, right? So I don't upload to YouTube. The issue is you can only find those if you go to speedrunner.com and like actively click on my video. You're never gonna randomly stumble across my
it's
speedruns.
not gonna have a title.
Exactly. No, exactly. Yeah. But the exception to this is I remember I specifically posted my moving out like world record or whatever. I posted it because I remember I actively was like, I should do this because I remember hearing someone told me I should do this. And that video actually just got like views. Like people found it by chance. They looked it up, whatever, right? And like, not to say that like enabled people to go speedrun the game, but it could only help. There's no way it takes away from it. And I think this is something that like everyone in the community can get better about doing, like making an active effort to show our hobby and passion to people that don't like know about it. And I think explaining it's such a big deal. And like, it's hard to do that all the time, but just doing it some of the time is better than none of the time, right?
Yeah.
And like, I think like channels like Virtual Summoning and stuff where they like very in-depthly go into like explanations and stuff, like that's really cool, but like that's like way too high like scale like maintenance for like most communities. Like you can't do that, it's not there. So just simply like posting your speedruns or whatever, like that's a good enough start more often than not, at least in my opinion.
Makes sense.
Not to call you out, Cam, but to call you out.
Cam.
Oh, I've heard enough. I'm out of here.
Just disappear. But I think that's good enough to move into the question of the day, which we had some fun discussion whether or not was an opinion or a fact beforehand. But
Is
question
this a fact?
question of the day
Actually,
is speedrunning an esport, guys. So Cam, want to start us off with your fact?
Fact.
I can't remember what we decided on.
Well, what you decided on, to be clear.
It factually might.
Factually, it might be.
Factually, it might be. Yeah.
I think that anything can be like a sport if there's people who are competitive in it and other people want to watch. It's like you can take a bracket. You can make a bracket out of any game. It's like that fad of everybody on Twitch playing chess. Like, and they had like chess brackets and the Pog Champs and whatever, and that eventually was like, I would consider something of an esport, but that's just chess. Like, it's literally just a game that exists in the real world. So I don't understand. I don't really like the notion that a sport has to be physically exertive. I feel like this is sort of the same argument of
Well, isn't
you're
that
playing
why
the
it's
game wrong.
called
What?
esports rather than just sports?
But what I mean is, like, in real life, it's like, what do you consider a normal sport? Like, football or soccer is a sport, but is archery a sport? Is javelin throw a sport? Is chess a sport? Like, where's the line? You know, and I feel like it's, again, the difference between people saying, oh, you're playing the game wrong. It's like, oh, you're using my title of sport, even though I'm doing it better than you. And it's like, it's just a word to describe the game, you know? Like, I'm
Yeah,
not
that's how you wanna
taking from
describe it.
you. It's like,
Uh,
oh, you beat the game, but you didn't play it my way. It's like, you're not a real sport. You're not a real player of this game. It's like, I don't know, man. Just chill out.
By esports, do you think do you mean one day there'll actually be like big competitions where a bunch of people go to speedrun the same game at like the same time?
There
Or
already
is that
are.
that
That
is a
already
That's
thing?
exists.
what Break the Record
That's what
Live
Break the
is.
Record Live is.
Yo, okay, well then yeah, it's an esport. Factually.
Yeah, so I'm a little cheaty since, like, you know, I'm the one who asked the question, so I have like slightly more information, I guess, come prepared for. So yeah, Break the Record Live, clearly Cam doesn't know about that, but Break the Record Live is something slightly more recent. Like, it's not old school, I suppose, at least to my knowledge it's not. Ran by ESA, where they'll invite like a lot of top runners for very popular games. So in the past they've done SM64, Minecraft. I'm sure there's more. I'm just blanking. But like really popular games, and we'll have a prize pool and have these people have like 72 hours like over the course of a 3-day weekend or something, and they have to like pump out like the best possible time, and then it's like first, second, third, you know, prizes downward, right? And the point of it is to try to break the world record live, is like the concept of it, which is really cool and is more, you know, conventional esporty because there's a prize pool. There is some sort of head-to-head competition with this, like, you know, rankings and everything, like live, you know, as opposed to, I guess, normal speedrun rankings that don't have this like live competition, but more so, you know, you post it on the board and wait for someone else to beat you. People aren't at the same time running against you. As David alluded to, there do exist sort of like tournament style brackets. The one that is by far the largest to my knowledge is A Link to the Past, specifically like randomizers. They are extremely popular. I am not actually aware whether or not there's prize pools for that. I don't believe they are. If they are, they're like small, sponsored by like, you know, people passionate about the game. Definitely not by developers. With that though, I do have to say there are games that sponsor speedrunning events more often than not, smaller games, but I have seen and personally haven't actually competed in them, but I've thought about competing in them in the past. So I know recently a game called Grapple Dog or something, I believe, had some like top content creators competing in like a speedrun competition, but it was open to anyone where you can just, for the first like 2 weeks of the game's release, whoever posted the best time would win, I don't know, $500 or something, right? Similarly, there was a game called, I believe, Mo Astray or something like along those lines that had the same thing where it was not on release actually, but like quite a bit after, maybe even like a year after or something. I just remember it popped up in my Steam, like, you know, news thing or whatever, like recent post by a game. And the game developers had like a $2,000 prize pool for whoever can get the lowest time in a like month span or something, because they just added a speedrun timer to their game. And I think those things are really cool and more conventionally esporty because there is like an immediate prize pool. Not to say you need to have a prize pool, I guess, to be considered an esport, because I mean, I guess the definition technically Cam looked up. Did it have that, or was it just competition? I don't remember what it said. But
I think it was
I mean,
competition.
would soccer not be a sport if you're just playing it out in the field?
yeah, I don't know, right?
Depends what your definition is.
Yeah. So I just think like conventionally, typically like competition, like people, you're competing for something. More often than not, it is a prize pool of some sort, because that is what motivates a lot of things. Not everything, even traditional, what people will easily call an esport, that's not true for every game. But I think speedrunning can be considered an esport right now. I'd like to see, because I just find it the most enjoyable, for there to be more live events or more events generally on top of like what currently exists for speedrunning, which isn't for everyone and obviously doesn't apply to every game, because not, you know, smaller communities can't support that kind of way. But the larger communities, I think like tournament style brackets and like leagues, I think those are very enticing, even from a viewer standpoint. I think they're very entertaining. So like things like SMO, where they have like those like long style like tournament brackets where you have like, you know, weekly matches into a final bracket or whatever, where you just go head to head and stuff in races. I think that's very entertaining and good sport for everyone, even if you're not actively working towards breaking a world record that way, you know? I think it's just a different way of speedrunning. I think speedrun racing in general, like where you're like head to head with someone, is something that's like not done as much nowadays. Like it's done a lot, but comparatively to how speedrunning used to be, because oh my goodness, I'm blanking on the website, but it's like not speedrun.com, but one of the other ones. Literally, speedrun.com has a racing feature on the website, but if you've ever looked at it, it's basically like completely empty. I'm trying to think of what the other website is. I'm blanking on it.
Speed Demos Archive?
I don't think that's the one that has the racing feature in it immediately. But there's like, I just know it because Big 20, you would have to like sign up using this other thing where like you'd like join the race, and when you're done you click like a button and it like submits your time, and then at that point you can see if everyone else finished the race or not at that point, or see if you won. And like, I don't know, I think like so many games, I think like most speedruns hold himself very well to racing. I think speedrun like head to head is like it's like the natural like 1-to-1 format, or like however many format that's not like the general leaderboard, you know, like whoever can get the better time right now this hour, like you win right now, you win this match. Like I think that's a cool way of doing it. I don't think people set that up as often as they could be doing. And I think that's like, if speedrunning were to go to the way of like conventional, like competitive head-to-head nature, that would have to be the way it's done, as opposed to the leaderboard system we have now. That would be like the traditional, like, you know, who's the world record holder, right? Because like that's true for like, there's different ways to play normal sports too, you know, like you can go into the World Cup in soccer, but like you can also have casual play, you can also have league play. There's a ton of different ways to like, you know, play the game soccer.
League?
Oh god.
I just think, And then like I think it was really cool. Unfortunately, I was gonna say what esport? There was an esport that like picked up all the speedrunners, but now they're no longer NRG. NRG picked up an esports division, or sorry, a speedrunning division. My bad, misspoke. For their esports, they picked up Speedrunners. They picked up like Easy Speezy. I think Point Crow maybe. I don't remember. They picked up some people, right? They've since dropped them. They were mainly using them for content creation, but I think it's an interesting concept for like to like look towards speedrunners in that fashion, like considering them part of your esports team. Because NRG is an esports team. They're not like, because there are like content organizations that are explicitly only for content creation, you know?
Yeah.
And that's not what NRG is. I mean, obviously they do both because, yeah, exactly, right? So like there exist different like groups that could just like sign a person for their content creation, but that wasn't necessarily the case here. I don't know like if they're, so like in terms of like financializing speedrunning, there's been like a lot of talk lately about like if like there should be like a coaching system in speedruns that like costs money. And personally, I think it's a bad look. Although I think it's also kind of a bad look in Smash, which is where like I believe the idea came from, because they arose at around the same time from what I saw.
What do you mean a coaching system?
Yeah, so like
you pay someone to help you get better.
You pay someone for like, let's say like a 2-hour session per se, like a tutoring session, and it's like, hey, I want to get better at Super Mario 64, because it's like this is for like popular games, right? I want to improve in this game. Could you like teach me some tricks or something in this 2-hour span? And they go through like the route, or oh, you can start doing this trick, or I hold the analog stick in this way, whatever they teach you. I know this is probably like a bad look, because a lot of people would say like, however they want to get their bread, like earn that money, get that, like, because like people need to make money off of this, right? Like if you want to make a hobby a career, you have to make money off of it. I just think like, I don't know, I think it's like a tacky way of doing it personally. Like I think that information shouldn't be withheld behind a money like barrier personally. Like I think supporting them through like Patreons or something like that is like really cool, right? Like if you want to like that's like a better way to do it, where it's like, oh, I'm giving you this information. If you want to support me financially, please do. I need it and appreciate it. But saying like, oh, you want to get better at speedrunning?
I mean,
pay me $10 and I'll teach you my secret sauce. Like, I don't know. That's like such a weird way of doing it. Like,
I think there's a difference though between like hiding general strats versus tailored help. Like, obviously you can watch the world record run and then just replicate it. But I mean, even me, I remember there was a time when I was running Minecraft set seed and I was just slower and I didn't know why. And so I actually had, I wouldn't call it a coaching session, but I was just chatting with Feinberg and I sent him like a clip of me running, and he would just tell me like, oh yeah, instead of going this way, you go this way, and like make sure to jump here, and all of these sorts of things that like I didn't think about and wouldn't be outlined in a general tutorial because they're specific to what I was doing that I needed to get better. So I think that's where the coaching comes in versus like general knowledge.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I've watched like videos on Valorant before, and they give like a lot of information of what you should be doing in the game, but they also advertise their coaching one-on-one things. So I think there is room for both. I wouldn't necessarily say it's a bad thing.
For me,
I think they're different,
even the way David like explains it, which like I do agree, like I think that's like the hope, right? That is like catered to like, your individual needs and not this like general information. I still think in speedrunning, I don't like that specifically being monetized, which like I think is kind of an unpopular opinion, because like yeah, because right, like it existing, no, right, like it existing doesn't inherently take away from anything, right? Like
yeah, you could just not pay for it.
Exactly. I just think like, but right, like I think having casual conversations in speedrunning communities that are even still catered towards you, like is what makes speedrunning like as a community.
Yeah,
Like
if you ask a question, someone's like, "I can't tell you. Pay me $5."
no, right, exactly. And I think it's a little different than
Yeah.
something like
Yeah, no, I know.
Valorant or Smash, because it's like those communities are like, even like Valorant's like a huge community, right? And it's like, yeah, like pro players, like their time is like valued to that point. But there are also like thousands of other players that are at that skill level that like, I mean, like you could go find like a person that's like the highest rank in Valorant with not that many viewers that'd be happy to answer some sorts of questions for you, right? Like those communities are so big that like you can find those. So if you wanted to pay the pro player for that information, then yeah, like it makes a little bit more sense to me there. Speedrunning as a community is not big enough to like, I think like limit that like transfer of information. I don't think we're at that point.
Yeah, I think it's just
Personally.
about priority. Like, how much is this person's time worth?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like,
And,
and
asking someone to pay you is sort of like, we're not at that point yet, and it's like overvaluing yourself. It's sort of like,
yeah, that's the other thing for
like
me.
you feel like you're worth something more than you are. I don't know.
Because it's like, even the popular games like SMO, SM64, Minecraft, like a lot of the top or not a lot of top runners, but like most top runners understand that like content creation is where like if they want to make money, like that's like they'll make a YouTube video or something, right? But like even those people, like it would be weird for them to be like coaches as like the way for them to make money. Like I just can't fathom that, I suppose, which is probably why I don't like it personally, because it just seems like yeah, we're not there yet. I don't know, like maybe one day in the long-term future, like it will get to the point where it's like, yeah, like in Valorant you can have coaching. I don't know.
Hey,
But, like,
just wait till I redeem that review my VOD and you're straight.
gosh. Oh no. Oh no. I don't know. I think it's good. I think it's, yeah, since you know you're not going to get developer support in speedrunning to like make it a financial career, and even in like normal esports, like David talked about this before, how like most esports, like even if you're a pro, you know, League of Legends player, you're most likely not making your living off of the developers support like directly. And that's true for like basically every esport that isn't Dota 2. Like Dota 2 is the only exception to that because if you win worlds in that, you literally are like, that's like your financial viability. Or not even winning, but
Fortnite or PUBG or
yeah, like some of, I think some of the newer like in comparison esports, I think they're better at understanding that the game developers' financial support is what makes it a viable esport. And then there's games like you know, Valorant, where like
Overwatch League,
yeah, where they like know where it's like their name ability is enough to get them there, so people are gonna try to compete regardless. But yeah, like Fortnite, I think is a good example of like the. I mean, like I don't agree with everything they do, but like their like money like ejection or injection.
No kidding.
Yeah, like they really just like juiced up their esports scene with.
They
like,
really do just be giving out little Timmy's mom's credit card info. But that's a whole nother discussion.
Yeah, well, I think this is a great place to wrap up general comments about the speedrunning community and like how we got into it and how people portray it. Okay, guys, any closing remarks, or are we good to say?
That was a long podcast.
It was like slightly longer than our last one.
How long has it been? Oh, well, hey, if you haven't tried speedrunning, pick your favorite game.
Try it.
Look up the speedrun.
You'll like it.
Go watch David's video on how to pick a speedrunning game or how to get into it. I forget what the video is called. I don't remember what it's called. You speedrun smashing it, though.
How do I speedrun?
Yep. Go watch that video, guys. Or come ask Cam in his streams. Specifically Cam.
Wait a minute.
All right.
Or drunk Cam.
Or hi Cam. Okay, guys. Hope you enjoyed it and hope to see us again soon. Peace out, guys.
Bye.
Bye.